Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we are going to be creating the functionality for our To-Do app using JavaScript. Alright, so we are in our JavaScript file. So we are going to be creating several functions inside this JavaScript file that will perform various tasks. The first function I am going to create here is going to fetch from the database the to-dos that have already been defined. All right, so we're going to start there, create a function whose main task is to go to the database and retrieve the to-do lists that are in the database. And we're going to implement this using local storage because we're going to be storing the data inside our web browser. Okay, here is the function I have defined. This function is going to be used by all the other functions that will be created later. So what this function is going to do, as you can see, there's no parameters passed in. If not passed in any parameters, the main purpose of this function is to fetch the content of the to-do list, which will be a key in the local storage. So it will be using the getItem method, which is this method, to retrieve the to-do list, the to-do items that are inside this local storage. So if this is the first time the function is called, the specific local storage entry will probably be empty. Okay, and the local storage.getItem call will return null. That means it will return empty. So line 4 here, I've introduced an if statement. So basically what the if statement is saying that if the return value is not null, that is, if it is not empty, then it must be the stringified data which has been stored. All right. So the JSON here, the JSON.parse, is used to convert the JSON string back into JavaScript data that the browser can display. The return here on line 7 is used to, when you create a function, you can also specify a return value. So if there's any data in the database, this return value here will return the data that's in the local storage. So the function here, you define the function by type in the name function followed by the name you want to give the function. I've given it a name of get_to-dos, and line 2 and 3 I've basically variables I've created. Line 2, the variables to-dos, set it to equals to a new array. An array can combine multiple variables as one. Line 3 again, created another variable called to-dos_str, which stands for string, and I've set it to equals to local storage.getItem method and passed it the to-dos, which is this variable here. Okay, I've explained line 4. So if the to-dos, this variable here is strictly, this exclamation and double equals means strictly. If it is strictly not empty, then return, then you get this and convert it using this to JavaScript, okay, and pass it this variable here and return whatever you find in the database. That's what that's saying. So I've created another function from line 10 to 20. This function is called add. All right, so what the function will do, the function is, it will be called when the user or visitor clicks on the button. Okay, so when the button is clicked on, it will trigger this method here, document.getElementById, and it is passed in task. The task, which is the value here, it was defined in the HTML, which is this task here. That's the ID it's talking about. It will get that and then add the value that has been inputted. So it will use that and retrieve the value that the user has typed in. All right. So then what it then does, it calls the get on line 13 there. It's called, I've got a variable called to do's, which is equals to get to do's. So it calls the get to do's. We retrieve the already existing to do items from the database. All right. And then it is appended to the array using the push method. So this push method is used to append to a list. That is, you add to a list using the push method. So it's saying for these variables, attach this method, and any task that's been listed, you add. If there's any more tasks you need to add, append it to the existing list. So the push is used to add or append. So once the new list is appended, it is saved to local storage using the local storage.set items. The .set item is what is used to store it inside the local storage. So to store that, what we need to do first, we use the stringify. We have to stringify the array. Okay. So using the JSON.stringify method. And what that does, when we store, it enables us to store the returned string using the local storage.set item method. I've called a function here show, but we've not written that function yet. But this is where we will also call the function from. So later on, we'll write a function called show. All right. Notice we've got a return value here called false. So what that does, it avoids any further actions generated by the click event. So even though the users click, it will avoid any further action. That's what that means. What I'm going to do is split this lecture in two for the JavaScript because it's gone on a bit long. So I'm going to stop this lecture here and we'll continue in part 2. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.